Well, tonight, more allegations against Campbell County's animal shelter director, Betty Crumley. And this time, a local attorney and former member of the Animal Control Board is speaking out. Now, we told you last night on 6 News at 11 about a YouTube video by a former shelter employee alleging inhumane practices and an online petition calling for Crumley's removal. She's denied any wrongdoing. Well, the former board member shared revealing information with 6 News reporter Jill McNeil in our top story tonight. And Jill, what did you learn?
Well, attorney Terry Basista started hearing complaints about the shelter a year ago and didn't believe them until he visited the kennels one cold day in February and talked with Betty Crumley.
I made an inquiry of her as to why the heat isn't on. And she told me that there had never been any heat on in that building, that the building had been constructed without heat.
But attorney and former Animal Control Board member Terry Basista knew that wasn't true.
I knew that the concrete floor had been designed with heating elements in it so that the animals would not be laying on cold, bare concrete.
Basista says he immediately talked to the mayor, who got him out to fix the heating system in the kennels last month and showed director Betty Crumley how to work it.
I was disturbed that in that entire time, 5 years, she had not undertaken to get the heat fixed.
Though Basista says he was replaced on the Animal Control Board about the same time he talked to the mayor, he attended one of their meetings just last week.
One of the officers that does the euthanization admitted that they didn't have tranquilizer. They had never used tranquilizer. Tranquilizer is recommended because that sedates the dog. You don't have to manhandle the dog or use choke catch poles on them to hold them down while they're euthanized.
And Basista says the records he saw showed animals were only given 1/3 of the recommended dose of the euthanasia drug. Animal Control Officer Otis Poole told 6 News yesterday.
We're using a double dose now to what we used to use.
Double what they were using means they're still only using what they need.
Basista believes the majority of the shelter's problems can be fixed under new leadership.
I feel bad that I was on that board for 4 years or 5 years, whatever it was, and I didn't know about it. I didn't do anything about it either. I assumed everything was being done properly.
We reached out to Betty Crumley tonight to address these allegations. She did not respond. She did tell us last night that she has done nothing wrong. Live in the studio, Jill McNeil, 6 News.
Employee of the Campbell County Animal Shelter is speaking out tonight, confirming disturbing rumors we've been hearing for the past week are true. 6 News first told you about this video posted to YouTube last week. The former shelter employee behind the video alleges inhumane practices. We also told you about an online petition calling for Director Betty Crumley's removal. She has denied any wrongdoing. In tonight's top story, 6 News reporter Jill McNeil spoke with the shelter employee who doesn't put down the dogs herself but has watched it happen.
I'm ashamed and sorry that went this long and this far.
Brenda Watkins has worked at the Campbell County Animal Shelter since 2006, the year after it opened and 2 years before Betty Crumley was hired as director.
Betty could do this and do it right. Don't know why she chooses not to.
Watkins says too many adoptable dogs are euthanized, sometimes the same day they come to the shelter, even when there's room to keep them and rescue groups willing to find them homes.
She just says this is how it's going to be run and done, and that's what we had to go by.
Watkins confirms no sedative is given to the animals before they're killed.
Some they thrash around in the cages. There's a lot of yelping, yelling, screaming from the dogs.
And she says a smaller than recommended dose of the euthanasia drug is used.
Sometimes it's hours before they're actually completely die.
The euthanizations, Watkins says, are usually done in the kennels among other dogs, not in isolation or the euthanasia room.
You know, this dog's yelling or screaming, or, then the other dogs had a catch pole put on it and it's been held down to be euthanized. Yeah, these dogs know what's going on.
Sometimes, Watkins says, the drug is injected directly into the heart.
When you hit an organ without that tranquilizer or, being sedated, it's very painful.
So you've seen the dog. How did the dogs react to that?
Jerking, thrashing, yelling.
As for dogs being put into the freezers before they've stopped breathing.
I've seen them taken back to be put in the freezer knowing that they're still alive, yes.
While the animals are in the kennels, Watkins says the heat is rarely turned on, even in the dead of winter.
They lay there and shake.
She says Crumley sometimes even denies them beds and blankets.
She's actually told us not to put blankets down, and she's actually went through and took blankets up after we put them down.
Watkins says she doesn't know why the shelter is run the way it is. She stayed so long because she worried things would get even worse if she left. She hopes speaking out now will bring change. In Campbell County, Jill McNeil, 6 News.
Now, we spoke with another shelter employee tonight who did not want to be identified but confirms everything Brenda Watkins told us. Director Betty Crumley originally told us last week she had done nothing wrong. More recently, she has refused to answer questions about the allegations except our inquiry about whether she would consider resigning. She answered by email saying, and I'm quoting here, "Hell no." Well, the Campbell County Animal Shelter is nearly empty tonight, more than a week after 6 News started investigating allegations of inhumane treatment there.
Employees at the Adrian Baird Animal Center in Jacksboro say too many adoptable animals are euthanized even when there is room to keep them, and rescue groups are willing to take them. They also claim not enough euthanasia drug is used, meaning animals linger and are sometimes put into the freezers while still alive.
6 News reporter Jill McNeil was at the shelter today and talked with the mayor about what's being done to fix the problems. Jill.
Well, after originally backing the shelter's director, Betty Crumley, Campbell County Mayor William Baird has now promised to make a decision in the next 24 hours. He'll either close the shelter temporarily or suspend Betty Crumley. The kennels at the Campbell County Animal Shelter were empty this afternoon, except for one dog waiting to be returned to his owner.
Oh, he's a sweetie pie.
Patricia Simpson is a volunteer with the rescue group Friends of Campbell County Animals. She was surprised today when Director Betty Crumley allowed all of the dogs and cats to be taken to other shelters and foster homes.
She just came out of her office and said that we could take everything, and I double-checked and I said everything, and she said everything.
That happened after Campbell County Mayor William Baird visited the shelter this morning.
We've got to do something about it. Something has to be done. It has to be done fairly soon.
The mayor says hearing allegations straight from shelter employees like Brenda Watkins, who talked to 6 News on Tuesday, has had an impact.
It's hard not to believe those folks, and I'm not going to pass any judgment until, like I said, all the investigations are complete.
It's taken him a while to get to this point, Baird says, because of Crumley's history in the community.
We are good friends, but that's not the reason that she's kept her job. She's been involved. Betty's been involved with the Humane Society for years. She raised a lot of money for spay and neuter programs.
The mayor says if he can find other shelters to take Campbell County's incoming animals, he may temporarily close the shelter. If not, he says he's looking for someone to fill Crumley's shoes so he can put her on administrative leave.
I think there is probably a pool of several people pretty close that could step in and run it adequately and compassionately.
The mayor says he wants to wait until the state finishes its investigation into the shelter before he makes a final decision on Crumley's job. Though the Department of Health refuses to comment, multiple sources confirm one of their investigators was at the shelter Tuesday interviewing Crumley and the 2 animal control officers. But as of this afternoon, the 3 part-time employees who have alleged abuse, including Brenda Watkins, have not been interviewed by that investigator. In the studio, Jill McNeil, 6 News.
All right, thanks, Jill. Now, some of the animals rescued today from the Campbell County shelter are being cared for by the Humane Society of the Tennessee Valley here in Knoxville. We should also point out that Betty Crumley refused to comment on this story.